1. Welcome back into the Friday Night 360 AZ preview show. Haley Stasiak and Jordan Ham. We're bringing in Arizona Varsity's Cody Cameron now. Cody, not only have you been all over the state covering some high school football, getting us ready for the season, getting some off-season content, but you've been traveling, getting some vacation time in. Can you tell us everywhere that you've been this year?
Well, Haley, I have been all over the East Valley, to West Valley and Phoenix, covering high schools, but also international travel is something I really enjoy and love. So I try to go somewhere every year. This year I went to Vancouver with a bunch of friends that I graduated with. I also went down to Florida, took a boat to Jamaica, the St. Lucian Islands, and Mexico. So I got a nice tan, came back to Phoenix, 120-degree weather, and now we're back in the swing of things with football starting right around the corner.
You and Chile, you mentioned you've been all over the East Valley. Where else have you been? What high schools have you specifically been out to?
Oh, man, when I mean East Valley to West Valley, we really have covered most of the state. Quinn Creek all the way into East Valley to so many West Valley schools. And what I love about Phoenix right now is, especially with the super practices that started at the end of spring, of summer, we're able to see so many great teams perform all in one location. So like what Saguaro High School put on earlier this summer with Saguaro and Higley and some other schools there. It's great for media. It's great for college coaches just to be there and see so many tremendous athletes at once. We went to Desert Edge's offensive line and defensive lineman camp over there, and it's just so many different camps going on with so many teams and so many groups. And that's really been the focus of what Chile and I and Rolf have been trying to do, is go see as many schools and as many athletes as possible. And it was a lot of fun this summer.
So among all of those teams that you have seen, who surprised you the most in terms of just, expectations and kind of who really jumped out to you?
I think a team that's really jumped out to me is Desert Edge. And when we look about the class of 2021 and 2022, it's too hard to say, man, that school has the best class just because those athletes are so young. We're talking about incoming freshmen and incoming sophomores. But it's hard to ignore the athletes that Desert Edge has at those classes. They are loaded at the offensive line position at the class of 2021. And I don't care who you have carrying the rock. If you got 5 offensive linemen that block extremely well, you're in for a pretty good season, especially if you could protect the quarterback. And they have about 4 or 5 guys in those classes, Jordan, that are fantastic football players. Match that to some great defensive players in those classes. And I think Desert Edge, they can compete this season, absolutely, but especially looking ahead and what Coach Lucero has done with that program, Desert Edge in the 4A is a legitimate contender.
Now, I heard you've been out to Greenway as well, correct?
Yep.
Now, with the Demons, they're returning their quarterback, Tyler Duncan. What can you tell us about him, and are there any other playmakers that return that we should be keeping an eye on with this team?
Tyler Duncan is a pretty special player. He's one of the best dual-threat quarterbacks in the 4A. Over 2,900 yards, 36 touchdowns combined last season for Duncan. But his football IQ is something that really jumped out to me. So we went over there 2 weeks ago, and we talked to his head coach. And seeing a lot of these quarterbacks that are transitioning from their junior season to senior season, what they're doing right now is they're really comfortable in the pocket. And that is exactly what Tyler Duncan is doing. Now, he can put his head down and run, but Tyler Duncan, going over his progressions, he is making all the right decisions over at Greenway, and he's really comfortable and confident now that he's a senior. He's got 2 of his top wide receiver weapons coming back for Greenway. One kid to look out for is Julian Arias. He is a phenomenal player. He's a slot receiver. 1 to 2 cuts at the line, gets past any defensive back, and he gets north. So watch out for that Greenway team in the 4A.
Another team with a similar situation is the Mountain View Toros. They return a lot of guys in some key positions. Just what do you anticipate for them this upcoming season?
Man, I am so glad you guys are asking me these questions because Tyler Duncan and Brandon Nunez are 2 of the top quarterbacks that really have not been talked about in the state. So Mountain View, they also bring back a soon-to-be senior quarterback in Brandon Nunez. And Nunez is every bit of 6'5". He's a big-bodied quarterback with tremendous arm power. And he also has one of the best wide receivers in the entire state in Jacoby Dinwiddie. Now, Dinwiddie, 130 catches, over 1,700 yards in his Mountain View career, and he is a deep threat on every single play. I was watching Brandon Nunez throw in practice 2 weeks ago, and he was absolute money. So that's a kid I expect colleges, once they get a little bit more tape on him, just to explode. Because just like a lot of these other quarterbacks, extreme high football IQ, can make all the throws, is a great pocket passer. So Mountain View and that whole Mesa area, I think, is loaded with talent right now.
You've been all over the place this offseason. When you come into the season, I have to ask, how do you kind of manage your time and make it out to all these schools and make it out to the schools that you really want to get out to?
You know, it is hard and it is a dedication. I mean, I work a full-time job at a golf course as well, but it's something I love. I mean, it's a passion. I love sports and especially football. I love watching good football. And in the state of Arizona, especially in Phoenix, there's a lot of great football. So managing time, it is a little difficult. Maybe you do have to give up a Friday and Saturday night, but it's something I've always been willing to do just because I'm so passionate about it. It's something I love to do. So going out to a Friday night and watching a football game, I love that.
You, Chili, Ralph, all incredibly well-versed in the Arizona high school football scene. You guys have continued to familiarize yourself this offseason. Just give us a name or two of guys who are under the radar that you think could be household names come October, November this year.
So, I mean, I got two athletes, and it's hard to go under the radar when you play for Centennial High School, just because they're so dominant and with so many state championships. But there's a kid I watched this summer over there that is pretty special. Now, Centennial is loaded on defense. They graduated a lot of players last year, but they are loaded. Jaden Young, class of 2020, Centennial secondary player, he is the real deal. I watched him last year, and I thought he was the best sophomore defensive player in the state. Watching him this summer, his footwork has improved. He's gotten bigger in the weight room. The guy could cover anybody. This is what makes Jaden Young so special over there at Centennial, though. The guy can tackle. He plays free safety. You move him down to strong safety. He makes plays. So I don't know if he's completely overlooked because I am sure he's on college radars, but that is a kid in the secondary that's pretty special. Also, Mesa High School has a free safety named Eddie McClendon. Eddie McClendon is going to move to a strong safety in the box type of player over there at Mesa, and he is also the real deal in the 6A. He can make every single play. He does not give up. Eddie McClendon at Mesa High, I think, is also a guy that is really under the radar that will be and can play at the next level.
No one is as plugged in as the Arizona varsity team. Cody, thank you so much for the time and the insight. We appreciate it.
Nope.
You know, we always appreciate the Arizona varsity guys and everything that they help us out with. We've had Ralph on here countless times.
He's been our most booked guest that we have, and deservedly so. Interesting
stuff from Cody there. I think one of the things that stood out to me that he mentioned was his surprise team was Desert Edge.
Yeah.
That's a team that here on Sports 360 we've kind of talked quite a bit about.
Right, and I think part of that could be just kind of like geographically where they are. They're on the far west side, so maybe they don't kind of get as many looks at that. But he made a really good point in terms of the future for Desert Edge, because they're one of those programs that are so good at having, every year they have 2 or 3 guys who are freshmen or sophomores that are just big time contributors, and they grow into these Teron Thomases and these Roshan Johnsons, and this year Nasir Sims, Milton Rogers. Those are guys that have played 3 years and started and been big time playmakers for them. So even going back to when it was Coach Welbrock, now Coach Lucero, they've done a really good job with that. They are moving from 5A to 4A. They're really trying to embrace that with their social media, new culture 19 and stuff like that. So that's definitely a program that you should certainly keep an eye on for this year, especially, but the next couple of years as well. My biggest thing was Jaden Young. He is a guy, we've done some stories on him. Eric Sorensen did a good story on him. He's been a leading tackler. Again, you going back to the young contributors, Centennial also seems to have those guys. He was one of those guys as a sophomore. and younger brother of Dedrick Young, who was just a monster for the Coyotes, now with Nebraska. He was a young contributor for Nebraska as well, now one of the top linebackers in the Big Ten. And Jaden seems to be certainly on that path because he's been just such a dynamic playmaker for them on the defense, in the special teams, and on the offense for Coach Taylor.
We're going to huddle up now. Our next play next Wednesday at 11 a.m. We are back this season for a full hour. Use that Friday Night 360 AZ hashtag. We'll be sure to share some of what you tweet us on our social media. Keep it on sports360az.com as we prepare you for the high school season coming to week 0. We'll see you next time.